National Service RAF Association was formed in 2002 by a few ex-RAF national servicemen who thought that the era when national service was common to all was being forgotten. Allied to that was the time factor, which made it essential for an association to be active before it was too late for many. Membership is open to all ex-RAF national servicemen, regulars, ex-WAF and ex-RAF who served in the period 1939 to 1963, when such service was compulsory for most of the young men at that time. Of every 100 young men called up to do national service during the late 40s and 50s, just 26 went into the Royal Air Force. The aims of the NSRAFA are to create a forum for contact between members and to organise such gatherings, be they local area or national events, whereby members can come together for periods of nostalgic comradeship. The means of doing this is mainly via a superb quarterly magazine, The Astral, the website www.nsrafa.org, an annual AGM package weekend at a large venue, 2007 Eastbourne, 2008 Blackpool, and in 2009 Bracklesham Bay, West Sussex, and of course the annual reunion and parade held each year at the RAF Museum in Cosford. In addition, all members have access to the total membership lists and thus have the means themselves to establish local contacts and arrange their own area and regional meetings. There are now 25 active social branches and groups running in the UK. The 1947 National Service Act had a remarkable impact on not only those whom it directly affected, but also the country at large. It conditioned the experiences and outlook of over 2.5 million men, and it was those men who went on to set a tone of self-discipline and confidence that was a driving force to much of the post-war economic recovery of the United Kingdom. However, like all good things, it had to come to an end. That end was announced in the 1957 Defence White Paper, which reflected the belief that the service could not get a sufficiently effective return from the training national servicemen. This marked the end of a memorable and in many cases life-changing experience for individuals, and it signified a new start for the RAF. The changes to the RAF were significant, numbering some 221,128 personnel in 1957. The size of the force shrank to 142,041 by 1963. Today, the RAF's strength stands at around 43,000. However, the average cost per head rose by 60%, largely as a result of regulars requiring better pay and conditions than those accorded to national servicemen. No doubt, the last RAF national serviceman, SAC John Wallace, who was discharged from the RAF Kinloss on the 23rd of January 1963, would have looked on with a twinge of envy at the pay and conditions of his erstwhile regular colleagues. Not many of those colleagues had the same send-off at the end of their service as he did. He was given a 5-course lunch, presented with a scroll and plaque bearing Kinloss's badge, piped aboard a Shackleton of 120 Squadron, flown to Renfrew Airport by the Air Officer Commander 18 Group, and then driven by staff car to his home. On parade at Cosford in 2009 were 580 old RAF Irks, and those gathered there did so mainly to commemorate their time in the post-World War II Royal Air Force, a period which is often overlooked and forgotten. Yet it was a time of total conscription for their generation, but necessary for this country to fulfill its then ongoing worldwide commitments and obligations. When the call came, they were all very young men, many far from home for the first time in their lives. The short, sometimes horrendous, shock of arriving at a square-bashing camp was an experience never forgotten. Sometimes lonely, often scared, for all of them it was an enforced adventure, and they had no choice but to make pals and get on with it. Ask any one of them for their service number, and they answer with ease, but many have difficulty remembering their car number or their postcode. This new life bred optimism and found most of them prepared to do their bit as best they could, but the cost to the nation was a loss of 400 plus national servicemen, of all the services, who in places such as Korea, Kenya, Aden, Cyprus, Malaya, Borneo, and as part of the No. 2 Tactical Air Force, Cold War front line, Germany, made the ultimate sacrifice. On reflection, national service for their generation probably did more good than harm, with the majority of them looking back on that time with some fondness. It is worth remembering that approximately 1/3 of the conscripted RAF national servicemen of the late 1940s, 50s and 60s went on to extend their service and became regulars. Reviewing the parade in 2009 was the Commander-in-Chief, Air Command.
Could you give us your title, sir, and your name, please?
Yes, my name's Air Chief Marshal Sir Chris Moran.
And would you like to just say a few words about how you thought today's events have gone?
Well, first of all, I've been delighted to be here today to be the reviewing officer for the National Service Royal Air Force Association. I mean, it was wonderful to see all our former national servicemen out on parade today, and women, of course. To see actually they hadn't forgotten much of their drill that we were taught all those years ago. I mean, they made an enormous contribution to the Royal Air Force during their time, and we remember that very fondly in the Air Force. I think it's important to come along today to be part of that celebration. I think also today is, as I mentioned on parade, it's a very important time to celebrate across the nation this weekend, the National Armed Forces Day. We're very grateful for the support we get from the people of our country, because without that we couldn't move forward in the armed forces, and we're trying to celebrate the whole Air Force family of our veterans and our national servicemen, our reservists, our current servicemen and their families, all the supporting organisations that help us, from our welfare support and charity organisations, and of course right through to the youth of today, which are the future of all the armed forces. So bringing all that together this weekend, and particularly to be here for the national servicemen, has been very important.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.